Hi everyone. Today's story begins with a stunning discovery. The protagonist Brooke found out she had werewolf blood after giving birth. What's even more shocking is that her mother also died from the same reason during childbirth. Why did werewolf blood save her while also bringing endless trouble? How would she face her half-human, half-werewolf identity? Let's explore this contradictory story together. Chapter 47 Grant's POV. I carefully position myself next to Brooke on the double bed, our eyes fixed on our newborn daughter resting peacefully on my chest. Ella, still unnamed at this point, lies on her belly, her tiny head adorned with a soft pink beanie, facing her mother. Her fragility strikes me, and am overwhelmed by an instinctive need to protect her from any harm this world might bring. Brooke gently caresses Ella's miniature fingers, a tender smile playing on her lips despite the evident exhaustion etched on her face. It's the middle of the night, and she hasn't had a chance to rest since giving birth. Earlier, we had a few visitors, my sister Abby and Brooke's brother, whom I've only recently gotten to know properly. He seems like a genuinely nice guy, and it's clear that he shares a strong, protective bond with Brooke, mirroring her own devotion to him. We still haven't thought of a name, Brooke whispers, tilting her head to meet my gaze. Do you have any ideas? I ponder for a moment, realizing we hadn't really had time to consider names properly. No, how about you? Brooke bites her lip, a hint of nervousness in her voice. I do like one name. She pauses, and I widen my eyes encouragingly. She sighs before continuing. Ella. I furrow my brows, looking down at our daughter. A smile unconsciously spreads across my face as I consider the name. Ella. I whisper, appreciating how it sounds and how well it suits her. I like it. Ella Rhodes. Underwood. Brooke corrects, choosing to give Ella my last name instead of hers. Surprised, I look at Brooke, and she chuckles at my evident shock before shrugging. She is a shadow after all. Touched by her gesture, I lean over and kiss Brooke's temple, silently thanking her. There aren't many people left in this world carrying my family name, and this means more to me than I can express. Brooke lets out a yawn, her exhaustion finally catching up with her. I start to shift on the bed, and Brooke protests, Where are you going? I'll leave you in peace to get some rest. You'll just be outside with the others. I explain. Brooke nods, another yawn escaping her as I carefully cradle Ella to my chest and make my way to the living room. I find Abby and Raina still awake, despite it being around 3 o'clock in the morning. They're seated on the couch, and as I enter with Ella, their faces light up with beaming smiles. Can I hold her? Raina practically begs, and I sigh happily and gently hand Ella to her aunt. I sit on the opposite couch as Raina fawns over her little niece. Abby's head turns to me. How's Brooke? She asks. Sleeping. I state. I look around for Brooke's brother Jordan, but he seems to be missing. Abby must have noticed and nods her head to the back door. HES taking a phone call. Poor guy is trying to explain to his mom the whole situation. I grunt out a laugh, imaging what the phone call would be like. Have you given her a name yet? Rain asked, adjusting the beanie on Ella's head. Ella. I answer, and Rain AWWWL. Abby playfully rolls her eyes at her reaction. I watched them together fussing over her, and I knew that Ella was going to be spoiled. I relax, finding myself also tired from the life-changing day I have had. A day I didn't think would happen 1 month ago when Rain arrived back at the pack house with a bullet through her shoulder and no Brooke. I didn't blame Raina for what happened. We cowed and have predicted it. The hard thing was not being able to act sooner. Sending a rescue team would have been too dangerous, and the plan was already set. However, it was for a month's time when our neighboring packs would reunite, as well as a synchronized Mide's attack with Red Coat Wolves in the desert at the S.E.R.O base in Nevada. We also coordinated the date with Ally. I hated to put Brooke under such stress, but I needed perfect timing, and it worked. Midday, we infiltrated S.E.R.O with a number of werewolves they weren't expecting. I found the 2 men, Mr. McCoy and Mr. Emerson in a very luxurious private suite. Once I heard about their true intentions of using Brooke. In my wolf for my snapped-in, as I told Brooke. I ripped the heads off. I left Caleb as my beta, with the neighboring pack alphas to discuss what is to happen next to the workers. Doctors, scientists, hostages and the files and formation. I would be there myself if I hadn't have found out Brooke went into labor. Something I felt like I needed to be there for. Just thinking about it sets my phone off and I look down to see Caleb's number. I better start working some pack business out. It was close to 6 o'clock in the morning when I left Hella with everyone to go check on Brooke. She was fast asleep when I walked in, looking rather peaceful. Sitting on the side of the bed near her head, I smile, although it starts to fade as I realize how pale she actually is. In an instant, something feels wrong, and when I smell a strong whiff of blood, I turn my head to the quilt cover. I rip it to the side and my heart stops when I see the horror of a large stain of red staining the sheets and sticking to the insides of Brooke's legs. Ally. Norton. I yell, turning back to Brooke and shaking her shoulders, trying to wake her up. I hear them enter the doorway, turning in time to see their wide eyes before leaping into action. Try and wake her up, Ally says as she throws the rest of the dew-on-a off her legs and checks to see what's happening. I spring back to Brooke and more urgently shake her, but she is still not waking up. The others from the living room spring through the door. Jordan is the last one to arrive and stops dead in his tracks, but anger bubbles over him quickly. Why didn't you take better precautions? He yells, coming to stand on the opposite side of the bed. HES pointing the finger at Drive. Norton, who is trying to keep him calm. I did. It might be hereditary, but that wasn't. Norton tries to explain, but that is cut off by a panicking brother. Then you should have sent her to a hospital. He exclaims. What's going on? I shout at both of them and Jordan turns to me, very confused. She didn't tell you. He questions, and by the furrowing of my eyebrows, he makes it that I have no idea what HES talking about. Her real mother died from childbirth. A new fear in me kicks and I turn back to Brooke, furiously trying to get her to wake up. It's a postpartum hemorrhage, but I can't decipher the cause of it without proper medical equipment. She losing too much blood. Ally gives the prognoses and my stomach drops. Then get her to a hospital. Jordan yells. There's nothing close enough. By the time we get there, she would have lost too much blood. Ally says back with a calm exterior, but we all know what happens when we lose too much blood. We're on the UT on pack territory. They have proper medical center. It's a short drive from here. Drive, Norton says. Yes, but the UT on pack wasn't willing to help us today with S.E.R.O. Oh, what makes you think they will help us with this? Abby argues back. It'll make them. Growling, I grit my teeth, getting up from the bed and turn to the door. Get Brooke in the car. I'll run there and negotiate. With one quick glance at my daughter, I leave her in good hands and bolt for the back door. I take off my clothes and shift, calling on my wolf side, and feel the power that comes with it. I hold my clothes in my mouth and run, running as the sun is spilling the glowing light onto the farm paddocks. And in this moment, I'm no longer a shadow. The sun does not hide my black fur. I'm just living and breathing as everyone else. I cannot hide. I do not want to hide anymore. And the one person who has given me this, I am not going to lose her. With my speed, I make it to the UT on pack house before they can even send someone to monitor the uninvited wolf in their territory. The house is a similar structure to ours, but houses scatter the land as this pack mainly focuses on farming. I shift and change just in time for Martin the Alpha to come booming out of the front door, along with some of his pack members. HS in his late 40s and sports gray hair and a clean-shaven face. Alpha Grant, what is the meaning of this? He roars, although I can tell he is unsure of why I am here. I need the use of your medical center. My partner has just given birth and she needs medical care. I state, is the child all right? He asks, probably sensing my distress. Yes, but the mother isn't. Alpha Martin firmly nods after a long agonizing pause. Fine. You may use our facilities and staff if needed. It's the least we can do since you have ridden us of S.E.R.O. I would smile, but I have nothing to smile about knowing Brooke isn't here yet. I manage a thank you and don't have to wait long until the sight of our black SUV comes into view, speeding along the dirt paths until they reach me. Jordan carries an unconscious Brooke out of the car. She trapped around her waist, but the stains of blood mean she hasn't stopped bleeding. We are directed to the building at the back of the pack house, and a gurney stands there waiting, and Brooke is whisked away through just swinging wooden doors before another word can be said. Ally and drive. Norton following pursuit. The way is what slowly kills someone's mind. The questioning, the buts and the ifs. The medical center has a small waiting room outside where Brooke was taken through an hour ago, and him left only hoping. Raina and Abby will be coming soon with Ella, just to make sure they have everything from the house to take care of her. I've been eyeing Jordan for a while now. He stamps his foot up and down, impatiently waiting for the same news as me. The swoosh of the wood and oars alerts me, and my head whips to the side to see a scrubbed-up drive. Norton coming our way. I don't know if I like the expression on his face. He seems apprehensive. Jordan notices him too and bolts right out of his chair. Well, I'm afraid it's a waiting game. Drive. Norton sighs, and because the news isn't good or bad, I think the jolt in my heart was from confusion. What do you mean? I ask. Drive. Norton keeps his calm doctor voice. The first appointment I had with Brooke, she informed me on how her mother passed away from childbirth, and the cause was how a werewolf baby was not compatible with humans. However, I didn't quite think that possible and looked into it. It took time to get the medical records of Brooke's mother, but when I did, I found something that was the most likely reason of her death. He pauses for breath before continuing. Like Brooke, she suffered from a postpartum hemorrhage. Different causes from Brooke, but was given a blood transfusion. The blood was werewolf blood, not compatible to her human body, and her body rejected it, which caused her death. But what happens if you give Brooke werewolf blood? Jordan asks. Anger is making him conclude to bad outcomes. The theory goes, because Brooke is half werewolf, her body will accept the blood transfusion. Norton says, eyeing me. There was no human blood on the premises, and resulting in getting some would be too late for Brooke's condition. We'll have to wait and see. And this is a guessing game to see if Brooke will be all right or not. I hate guessing games. Chapter 48. My body feels like it's moving through thick black oil, sinking further into a place that never ends. My limbs feel heavy, and I have forgotten why I'm here, why I've come. But slowly but surely my descent into darkness slows down. Around me becomes lighter. The oil becomes as thin as water, and no more weight pulls me down. I feel so light I drift to the surface, slowly until I reach the sky. My eyes flicker open to the brightness of a room. The lovely dream of being weightless disappears. As my body feels heavy and tired, fragments of my memory appear, and I realize that I shouldn't be in what appears to be a hospital room. In my slight panic, I look down to see I am attached to a machine and have wires and tubs stuck to my arms. The wooden door in front of me opens, and I recognize Ally's blonde hair. Turning around, she blinks twice at me before a smile coats her lips. You're awake. How are you feeling? She asks, walking to my bedside and checking on what seems to be a drip and heart monitor. And a few other things I don't know that beep. Groggy. Finding it the best way to describe myself. But then it hits me harder than a truck. Where's Ella? She doing fine. Ally reassures me, and I relax again. She in the waiting room being treated like a little princess. You don't feel any pain anywhere. I shake my head. No, not anywhere specific. Why am I here? You had a postpartum hemorrhage and lost a lot of blood, Brooke. You're currently in the UT on Pack Medical Center, and I'm glad to say that your vitals are looking good. Still a little disoriented, I mange an odd of my head in response, taking in everything she is explaining to me. And just going to tell everyone you're awake. She smiles and leaves the room. I sit there for a minute wondering about all the things that have occurred. My mother had a hemorrhage, but she had died. I had the same thing, but I was sitting here alive. I couldn't get my head around it. The door opens again to see a very tired-looking Grant walk in. His smile seems to be of joy and relief as he walks to my bedside, sitting on the edge and taking my hand in his. I don't get to say a word as he leans in, capturing my lips in a kiss. With little strength I kiss him back and have to pull away first from the lack of breath from my surprise. Sorry. I thought I lost you. He murmurs, and I can tell from his face his next question. So I look away and pretend to be study our linked hands on the bed. Why didn't you tell me? I sigh, squeezing onto his fingers tighter. I was scared of having the same fate. For a while I had contemplated on telling Grant about my mother's cause of death, but I was so afraid I pushed it to the back of my mind. Drive Norton researched on your mother's death. He's going to come explain it to you. Grant says, and I look with a confused face but decide against arguing and wait for Drive. Norton. I studied Grant's face. When was the last time you slept? 36 hours ago. He says, and my jaw drops. He manages to chuckle at my reaction. I had to make sure you were all right and I wanted to be there for Ella. As excuses go, I let them pass. But I hate for him to be so tired because of worrying for me. Can I see her? I'll ask Raina and Abby to bring her in. Grant says, getting up from the bed and giving me another kiss. Grant, don't come back until you have rested. I call after him and he rolls his eyes. Brooke, he sighs, but I cut him off. I mean it. I say sternly, giving him my best stare down, and he chuckles but nods. Which I'm happy about. All right, Mama Bear. As long as you rest up too. He teases and I shake my head with a laugh, saying goodbye before he leaves the room. Drive. Norton came in and explained to me the real reason behind my mother's death. And I felt anger that if she had just been given a human blood transfusion, then she would have been here with us today. Although I might not have had my brother, and my life would have been completely different. But either way, the knowledge now has saved my life, and hopefully will save the lives of other women in similar situations in the future. Afterwards, I was over the moon when Raina and Abby arrived with my daughter, and it didn't feel like something was missing anymore as she was in my arms. Okay. Picture time. Abby pipes up out of nowhere, pulling out her phone, and I laugh nervously. No, I look awful. I complain and Abby scowls at me. Look, if I don't get this picture, Annie is going to be nagging me until next Christmas. Please. Abby begs and I sigh happily. Annie was a huge help during my whole pregnancy, and if she wants a photo, she should have one. And I know Abby's right about Annie being the best and agger as well as guilt tripper. I smile, holding little Ella to show her face for Abby's phone camera, and after the photo is taken, Abby works on the caption to put with it. Has Grant gone to sleep yet? I ask, and Raina chuckles with an understanding smile. He's next door in a free room. I made sure he fell asleep, which didn't take long because his head basically hit the pillow and he was knocked out. Good. He needed it. Are you two planning on going to sleep anytime soon? I ask, and Raina looks to Abby with a mischievous smile. Abby is only too happy to return one with a wink. I know what that means. Yeah, we are allowed to stay in a room in the pack house while we're here. Raina says, just remember to put a do not disturb sign on the door this time. I tease. Try not to reminisce on the time I caught them doing it while I thought I was going into labor. Raina blushes while Abby playfully rolls her eyes. Yes, well, next time you'll remember to knock. Won't you, Brooke? She raises her eyebrows and I let out a happy yet exhausted sigh. I've learnt my lesson. I say, cringing internally. After I change the topic. Thanks for looking after Ella. My pleasure. I will be happy to babysit anytime. Raina beams and jumps when Abby elbows her. What? Raina hisses and Abby widens her eyes. Oh well, when I'm not busy, I mean. I hold in my smile, as Abby seems satisfied with the answer. But to say their goodbyes, and I am left with Ella for some private time. I look down to her as she makes a little gurgling noise before opening her eyes, and I met with the same pale green as her father's. I smile down at her, running my finger across her cheek and the bridge of her nose. It's funny how it barely took less than a second before I fell in love with her. A soft knock on the door draws me back, and I look up to Jordan Ness, head popping out through the doorway. Hi, Uncle Jordy. I joke and he laughs. Although, knowing him all his life, I can tell it's a nervous chuckle. Hey, Brookie, he says back, and my eyes narrow as he walks into the room, staying close to the door. You only used to call me Brookie when you had done something wrong and were about to tell me. I stayed endured and Ness' shoulders sag. What have you done this time? Monsieur, he forces a smile and my eyes could have popped out of my sockets. The umpire deception. I dweck Nathan and EY Gwet. At the undocumented changeling, and forced to pose as a low-level witch. I wanted to scream but whispered so I didn't scare Ella. Look, I called her after you had the baby. I was going to tell you, but then, well, there was the incident where you nearly died, so I didn't get a chance to tell you. Did you tell her everything? I ask, apprehensive on finding out her reaction. No, exactly. He points out and I nod my head for him to continue. I told her my part and some of your parts about the S.E.R.O adventures. I recalled her and said you had to go to a medical center but you're fine. But left out the whole baby thing. So Ma is about to walk in here having no idea that I have just had a baby. I ask, more sarcastically than anything, and Jordan regretfully nods. Great, great. Make sure you're standing behind Ma when she walks and so you can catch her when she faints. So glad you're okay with it. You'll just bring her in, he says, scrambling to get out. Jordan. I hiss, wishing I can go chase him, but am planted in my bed, holding my daughter. I sigh, mentally preparing myself for my stepmother's reaction. I look down at Ella. I guess you're about to meet your grandma. I whisper down to her, and if she starts yelling, it's my fault. I hold my breath as there is a knock and the door slowly opens. To my relief, Jordan walks in first, followed by my step-mother, Vicky. Her sandy blonde hair reaches down to her shoulders and she wears a simple pair of jeans and a cardigan. Just how I remember her. There are tears in her eyes as she spots me. Brooke. Oh honey, I have been. The words stop as she spots the baby in my arms. She went so still she was like a statue. Although Jordan seemed to be backing away as if she was a bomb. Her eyes shift to me, then back to the baby as I wear a guilty smile. Hey Ma. Brooke Rhodes. She says, in a whispered yell. I have been worried sick for over a year. With no contact, thinking only the worst things imaginable. She comes around to my bedside. Hands on hips. I thought something awful had happened to you and you were really having a baby. Why didn't you call or text me? Second of all, Ma. I stop her mid-sentence and she looks annoyed, but she keeps her mouth shut. Do you want to hold her? And as if she hadn't seen a baby before, her face morphs from anger to complete eagerness as I start handing her little Ella. And in a flash she probably had forgotten what she was going to yell at me about as she falls in love. What's her name? She asks and I smile. Ella. I say, and my mother turns to a pile of moosh as she fawns over her. Oh, Brooke, she's beautiful. She swoons, then becoming her dramatic self again. Too young to be called grandma. You don't look it. Jordan jokes. My mother doesn't seem to like it and stares down her son. You're not off the hook yet. She says, and I want to laugh, but she stares at me next. Neither are you. Yes, Ma. Jordan and I say in unison. My mother sits on the edge of the bed with Ella still in her arms and we talk. I explain some of the things that happening the past year but don't go in great detail, as I don't feel up to it. In the middle of our little chat, the door opens again to welcome in Grant. He probably wasn't expecting me to have any visitors as he was rubbing his eyes and yawning when entering. He stops when spotting the scene in front of him. I put on a nervous smile. This is Grant. I introduce, and Grant pulls a pleasant smile and walks over to the end of the bed. I turn my head to my mother, who is staring bug-eyed at Grant. It doesn't take her long to realize that this is man who I have just had a baby with. Grant, this is my mother. Vicky. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Rhodes. Grant says, an essence of charm in his voice. My mother seems to leave her trance and shakes her head. Just Vicky. So how did you two meet? I bite my lip and I see Grant go tense in the shoulders from the question. I decide it best to answer. That's a story for a rainy day. I give a slight edge to my voice to indicate my mother to stop asking questions on the topic. It seems she gets the hint. Handing me back Ella and getting up from the bed. I'll leave you guys to it. I have someone in need of a lecture. My mother flicks her gaze to a now anxious-looking Jordan. She leans over and gives me a kiss on the forehead. "I'm glad you okay, sweetheart." "Alice beautiful." "Thanks, Ma." "You staying in New York?" I ask, missing her presence as well as feeling bad for being away from home for so long. "I'm planning to." "Nice meeting you, Grant," my mother says, giving a smile at Grant. "You too, Vicky," he says, coming around to sit on my bedside. My mother and Jordan leave and it just leaves me and my new family. Chapter 49. A few days later, I was released from the medical center and we were all heading home. On the car journey there, I sat at the back with Ella, who was in a portable child seat. Luckily Annie had helped drive, nor pack all the essential things before he headed off to the safe house to help. A smile tinted my lips as we were driving through the familiar forest, heading back to the pack house. I had missed it so much and I push away the thoughts and bad dreams of waking up in S.E.R.O. I was safe and I was home. Pulling up into the driveway in front of the porch, I look up in front of the car to Grant, who is driving. He peers in the rearview mirror, a very relaxed smile on his face. Everyone else went home early this week, and Grant stayed until yesterday when we got the okay to come home today. "Is Ella asleep?" Grant asks, turning his head, slightly lowering his voice. I peer into her carrier to see her head resting on her shoulder, her small eyelids shut. "Yes, be careful not to wake her," I tease, and Grant smirks before unbuckling and getting out of the car. He walks around to the passenger door and I can tell he tries hard to open the door quietly. I unbuckle the child seat and Grant unhooks the handle and lifts her out of the car in the carrier. I slowly get out of the car to the area between my legs, is still a little sore as well as my near-death experience limiting me. Grant listened very carefully to the doctors and made sure I didn't lift anything heavy after my blood transfusion, even though that was a few days ago. Up the front porch through the front door we walk into a strangely quiet house. Surprise! I about jump out of my skin at the cry and turn to see a crowd of people with pink balloons and party blowers under a banner saying it's a girl. I turn my head back though to Ella to see if the loudness woke her, but she only stirs in the slightest and nods off again. I can't help but chuckle and look to Grant. "She must get your heavy sleeper jeans," I say, and he playfully rolls his eyes before my attention goes back to our welcome party. I spot Annie first and she doesn't wait as she crashes Mia in a big hug. "I'm so glad you okay," she whispers, and I manage to hug her back, missing her caring nature. Pulling away, it's not long before she spots Sella, and she could be practically squealing by the look on her face. "Can I see her?" I smile, and Grant and I walk over to the table in the corner and place the carrier on top. Ella still being asleep, I don't make a move to take her out, but I don't think Annie minds as she gazes at her. "Chef's beautiful, guys," she beams. I turn to see Grant greeting Sean. I wasn't expecting a surprise. "I stayed," and Annie laughs. "Well, after everything that happened, we didn't get to give you a proper baby shower, so we only thought it appropriate." Annie grins and I can't help but smile back, looking at everyone here in the room to welcome us back. I could truly say seeing my mom, brother, Rania, Abby, Ollie Drive, Norton, Martha, Dom, and even Caleb made me happy to somehow fallen into their lives. The small party was fun and I stayed with Ella as I greeted everyone. I was given a showering of small gifts and toys for Ella, who was still managing to sleep through all the laughs and talking. When Dom came to greet me, he was carrying the cutest black wolf plush I had ever seen. Just like a shadow wolf, but less scary. It was a gift for Ella and I could help but laugh as it was nearly twice her size, but I laid it next to her in her carrier and decided I had seen nothing sweeter than when she rested her head against the soft toy. Only a week old and she already was becoming in touch with her wolf side. Grant cowled and get the smile off his face either at the sight, and we took pictures. But after about an hour I was beginning to get tired and Grant noticed too. "Before you have a rest, I want to show you something," he whispers in my ear as we are saying goodbye. I give him a quizzical look but nod nonetheless. He carries Ella up the flights of stairs as I struggle up them myself. Reaching Grant's apartment, we walk in and he doesn't wait for me to catch up as he walks down the hallway, right to the end room. Before opening the door, he gives me a mischievous smile. He creaks it open, flicks on the light, and my jaw drops. I hadn't imagined a nursery like this with the forest wallpaper and the woodland-like theme. It was adorable. Perfect for a boy or girl, but seemed to match our lives perfectly. The same white crib was appropriately done with a blanket and an armchair beside it with a Q-towel cushion. Everything we bought was set up and ready. When did this happen? I asked, walking further into the room, admiring the small details. I had to keep busy when you were at S.E.R.O, Grant says, and I turned to see him wearing a half smile. And I could tell even after everything, he still had hope we would be together again. We put Ella down in her crib for her first sleep at home. Grant and I leaned over and watched out daughter. It still doesn't feel real. You know, Grant whispers, and I give him a questionable look. I thought you said you were a have to see it to believe it person. Because Grant's chest right there. I tease and he huffs in amusement as a response. Very funny. I can see my daughter very well, thank you. I just meant this past couple weeks. Somehow we have all ended up okay. Grant replies. Not everyone. I say, referring to everyone at S.E.R.O, and those who died, such as Mr. McCoy and Mr. Emerson, that somehow still haunt my dreams. Those bastards deserved it. Grant says darkly. Grant? Language. I scold. She's asleep. Grant flatly states. Still, I drag out, thinking it would be good practice, as Grant still manages to slip a few curse words here and there. I can't believe they did all that planning just so they could get me pregnant. And all I thought was I made an unforgiving drunken mistake one night. Not a mistake. Brooke, Grant says, shaking his head before lowering his gaze to our daughter. A miracle. Epilogue. 18 months later, today was the big day. A day for a new beginning in the life I have chosen to live with the people that I love. And I know and can say happily, that love me too. Yet the big day can't really start as Grant still lies fast asleep in our bed. Although I know he stayed up late last night, making sure everything was ready, and him defiantly not being a morning person, it doesn't excuse the fact I have gotten to people ready and he hasn't even gotten up. Grant, I whisper at him. It doesn't stir his sleeping form, so I use a different method. I extend out one finger and flick his cheek while leaning over him. Ouch. He groans, rolling over to face the other way. I knew you were awake, I say, and shake his shoulder. Come on. Grant, everyone is probably waiting for us by now. Let them wait. Let them wait. They can't begin without us. It was good to see how enthusiastic he was about this day. He had worked so hard to get it done, and all he wants to do is sleep. I've worked out tempting him with fun nighttime activities to get him up. Doesn't work, as we end up not waiting till dark. The method I chose this morning could be extreme, but Grant isn't slowing us down today. I grab the glass of water by his bedside and dump it on his head, bolting out of the room before I could see his reaction. I walk to the left of the corridor, heading to the bedroom at the end of the hall. I normally wouldn't have left her that long these days, but I am relieved to find my daughter wandering off like she usually does. Although Ella is not the strongest of walkers yet at 18 months, she still manages to move quick if I blink for too long. But I had already dressed her in her floral bathing suit and slipped over some white shorts and purple top. She was cosily playing with some building blocks while leaning on her favorite big black wolf plush. She is nearly the same size as it now, just showing how much she has grown. Her big green eyes brighten when seeing me, and after her little squeal, she is carefully pushing herself up on shaky legs to walk to me. When she reaches me, I pick her up, giving a soft wince at how heavy she now is before resting her on my hip. I brush her black curls off her forehead to see her face before giving it a kiss. Mama, swim. She giggles excitedly, using her chubby little hands to clap on my shoulders. Ella now loves to swim. At the start of this summer, we thought she was old enough to go swimming in the lake. Obviously, with Grant and me supporting her, and now she loves it. Although I think the only reason she loves it is because Grant picks her up and throws her in the air before catching her and tracing her toes through the surface of the water. I think she likes flying more than swimming. Yes, honey. We just have to wait for Dada. I say, with my free hand grabbing the baby bag I packed earlier this morning. It was little harder to find things, as most items are in boxes around the apartment, but I think I have everything. Walking out back to the corridor, we bump into Grant coming out of our room. His hair and shirt partly soaked as he rubs his eyes. "Gotta swim?" Ella asks. I look down to see a frown on her face, her eyes going wide as if she is upset. From Grant's soaked hair and cloth chest, probably thinking he went swimming without her. "No, Ella. Daddy just had a shower this morning," I explain, a little smirk on my lips as Grant glares at me. Although it doesn't last long as Ella starts to wiggle in my grasp and I let her down on the floor for her to race over to Grant. The smile that appears on Grant's lips is one he can't help showing as he picks up his daughter, teasing her as he shakes his wet hair out like a dog and she squeals. "Good morning, my Ella," Grant whispers to her, holding her close as she giggles. It's funny how our little girl can change Grant so much when he's around her or thinking about her. Even though to begin with you could say he was a nervous dad. But after the months fly by he became more comfortable and he always found time with his busy schedule to spend time with her. And me. Approaching them to take back Ella so Grant can get ready, I am pulled in by an arm so my body is tucked under the other side of Grant. He leans down to kiss my forehead. "Good morning." I notice a slight edge to his voice, probably from my abrupt wake-up call. "Good morning. Ready for today?" Looking up, I see him smile. "Yes, more than ready." Turning my attentions to Ella, Grant decides then to lean down until his lips brush my ear. His whispers send shivers up my spine. "And Brooke, if you think I have forgotten that little stunt this morning, think again." Looking up at him, I see the devil's smirk on his lips. I take Ella before he walks back into our room to change. So now I have to spend the rest of the day watching over my shoulder. It was a bright and sunny day as we walked to Sky Lake. Grant was carrying a box of food and drink in one hand and I was carrying Ella's bag in the other. Between us we held Ella's hands as she waddled along in time we would swing her in the air. When we finally approached our destination, a huge grin plastered itself on my face. Not only was the whole pack there and my new family, but our new home. After the destruction of S.E.R.O, Grant managed to finally get the money back for his pack. The money that caused us to meet in the first place. However, it turned out S.E.R.O had a bigger supply of money than was known, so it ended up getting evenly distributed through the packs that helped destroy them. And Grant ended up with double the money. And with that money, homes are now being built on the territory, ours being the first to be finalized. It was like a dream house with the pointed rooftops and the white painted finish. My favorite bit was the front porch that faced out to the water. And that classic rocking chair that I couldn't wait to sit on, but preferably not grow old on it so quickly. The double-story house took a little over a year to complete, and everyone in the pack has pitched in to build it, and as we all will when we finish the other houses for other families and couples in the pack. "You're late." I hear the call and watch Abby raise her eyebrows at me as we approach. She sits in a lawn chair next to Rena, looking rather comfortable. Ella rushes to her aunt with open arms, pouncing on Rena, who with her nimble mind has time to catch her. Someone slept in. Again. I can't help but add as I sneak a look from Grant. I probably shouldn't be so sly, as I have payback coming my way soon. He doesn't look happy at my remark, although I have seen worse when he found out his sister was dating Abby. That whole week was full of fighting and temper tantrums from Grant. It was the fact she was into women. It was that fact the woman she likes is Abby, the one person who gets on his nerves better than anyone I have ever met. But it smoothed out in the end. Grant cowled and stayed mad for long as he had his long-lost sister back in his life and she was happy with her. "Oh, I feel so bad for you, Brooke, having to take care of 2 children," she emphasizes. I hold back my chuckles. Grant's only response was a grunt. However, this was good enough for Abby as she found more of Grant's buttons she wanted to push. "You know Grant," Ronnie and I were thinking. Abby states, looking rather serious yet charmed. "Good to hear," was Grant's flat reply. Well, while we were sitting here waiting for you, we couldn't help but admire the view and the scenery. And as there is some for you and here, we thought if we were to have a house of our own we could be neighbors. Abby was finished there, and I could already see a muscle in Grant's jaw ticking. It would be fun. She smiles. We could be good old neighbors. Borrow cups of sugar from one another. Rania was even thinking of getting some chickens and a rooster, so we can hear their morning cries and get up early and go for a run at 6 o'clock every morning. I couldn't help but contribute. I think that would be great. They could babysit Ella whenever needed. Grant slowly turns his head to me, and if I washed up to 3 strikes, I defiantly was now. He puts his temper back into control. Abby, remember when I said you didn't have to come to negotiate territory borders at the conference next week at New Jersey? Grant has no falter in his voice. Abby's mouth twists into a scowl. Yes, start packing. Grant doesn't wait for a reaction as he walks away to put the food supplies on one of the already packed picnic tables. How many times will I have to remind you not to keep pushing him? Abby. Raina recaps her girlfriend, while bouncing Ella on her knees. It's fun to give up. It's addictive. Abby sighs. Lolling her head to the right as if she has found her next target, she smiles. Here comes Miss Lady of the Lump. Turning my attention to the looming figure, I find it to be a now 6-month pregnant Annie. You owe me your seat for saying that. Sis Annie stands above her younger sister, and for once Abby is smartened, then doesn't complain and gets up. Knowing myself of the relief a pregnant woman gets when said expression on Annie's face before she turns to Raina and my daughter. Abby bumps me on the shoulder. So you ready to start moving things in? Yes, that is why we are here. I tease and Abby rolls her eyes. Raina can help watch Ella. She hurt her shoulder last night, so she can't help with moving everything today. How did Raina hurt her shoulder? I furrow my eyebrows, turning to Abby. Things may have gotten a little wild last night, she says with the double lift of her eyebrows. I regret asking her questions. I whack her shoulder. You could have just lied to me like a normal person would. There is no pleasure in that. Seeing you uncomfortable in conversation is glorious. Abby devilishly replies. Mama. Ella wiggles out of Raina's grip. Go swim. She bonds to me and I pick her up. Honey, we will go swimming in a couple of hours. We have to move some things at our new house first. I can already see the tears coming. Swim now. She pouts at me and I can see Abby sidestepping away. Honey, we can go swimming in a couple hours. I repeat myself, but Ella shakes her head. I guess she got her short temper from Granton. With her young age, she has learned how maintaining yet. Swim now. She whines, tears bubbling in her eyes. The waterworks have begun. No, honey. You will have to wait. I say sternly back, but she just keeps shaking her head and crying, repeating she wants to swim now. Our conversation gets a little repetitive with me trying to calm her down until I see Grant approaching. I don't have to say anything as I hand over Ella, who is kicking and wiggling in her screeches. It barely takes any time before she begins the processes of calming down, her cries becoming huffed breathes and sniffles. Even when Ella was still in my belly, Grant had had that shadow connection with her. He still can't really explain how it works, but the best way to describe it is sharing emotions with other shadows. Because of this, when Ella is upset or having a tantrum, Grant has a way of calming her down with the bond, as well as whispering words in her ear and soothing her by rocking her back and forth. Sometimes I do get jealous of it. How it is so easy for him to calm her down. But it is a special bond of father and daughter that not every girl gets. Ella seems to finally understand and gladly stays with Raina and Annie as we start to furnish our home. We spent a couple hours unloading the furniture from the apartment upstairs to awaiting vans to drive to our new home. Everyone had done quite a lot by then, and it was time for a lunch break followed by a swim. Something I knew Ella was excited about. Martha had created a massive spread of food for this day, and I made up to plates, one for me and one for Ella. I was lucky she was such a fussy eater, which made it easier at meal times. In our group at a picnic table, I sat next to Grant, who had Ella on his lap nibbling away on her carrot sticks. On my other side was Abby and Ellie, and across from us Raina, Annie and Sean, with Lily seated between them. As we talked, Don dropped by, helping his mom hand out gelato to everyone. I had asked Don for spare napkins, knowing Ella was going to make a mess when trying to eat it. Some time passed after we had eaten, and then Grant asks if he can talk to me for a second. I notice a hush go over the table, and Ella stays with Abby as he takes my hand, leading me to the edge of the lake. I look back with basically everyone wearing an excited smile. I don't understand what's going on, I ask, and Grant softly smiles at me. You'll see. His enticing tone doesn't make me think twice as we approach the water's edge. It was a hot day, and the sun reflected beautifully over the pale water. It's going to be strange living in the big house, I state as we come to a stop. Yes, but I think it would be nice. Besides, we have a great view. The only problem will be keeping Elle away from the water as she lives right by it now. I chuckle, stepping closer to me until we're inches apart. Brooke. He breathes out in a soft tone that always seems to get my attention like nothing else. There's been something I've been wanting to do for a while now. Thoughts were racing through my mind as he starts to bend down, lowering his right knee closer to the ground. I don't even get time to admit to myself what I thought he was going to do before I feel my feet leave the ground. I have been slung over his shoulder like a rag doll. Grant, this is payback, was the last thing I heard before he throws me into the lake. The water hits me in a cold rush as I blubber about, knowing I look like a drowning seal. Once I regain balance and stop splashing, I bob up in the water, glowering at a laughing Grant. In the background, I think I see Abby rolling on the grass in hysterics. Was that necessary? I hiss, pushing my wet curls away from my face. Grant shrugs, which makes him look sexy yet makes me want to punch him at the same time, even though I only poured a glass of water over him. The amount of times I teased him was probably leading to this. He knows my weak spot is his seductive ends towards me, and I am going to use his now. By faking an injury, I walk forward. S.E.R.O. I exclaim loud enough for everyone now watching to hear. What? Grant's smile slowly starts to fade. I stepped on something sharp. Oh. I curse, hissing in pain. I extend my hand out. Can you help me out? I take a limp forward and reach out my arm, my hand grasping Grant's for a split second before I pull. He defiantly wasn't expecting it as he comes tumbling in the water. He stands up soaked, shaking his hair out like this morning, some drops catching me in the face. He walks over to me in the water, and I suddenly feel very small in his towering presence. That wasn't very funny, although the cheeky smile on his mouth says otherwise. No, not really. I smirk, and he leans down and captures my lips with his hands circling themselves around my waist. My hands find his soaked hair, and we last in the moment for a while before a wolf whistle brings us back. We pull apart, trying to ignore the ogling eyes from everyone on the side of the lake. You know Nella is going to get jealous we've gone in without her, I point out, and Grant sighs happily, taking my hand and leading us back to everyone. I know, but she will forget all about it once she is in the water. And that was true as I took off my dripping clothes and had my swimmers underneath. I spent about half an hour in the lake swimming with Grant and Della, as well as playing with Lily. By the time I got out, my clothes had already dried in the afternoon sun. For the rest of the time, I watched happily as Grant threw Ella in the sky before catching her and giving her piggybacks as he swam in the water. But since Grant had decided to forcefully make me go for a swim, I have been receiving looks as if they wanted to ask me something. I don't take much notice of it, as I am probably overthinking everything. The day continued on as everyone went home and we went to our new one. I had spent the afternoon unpacking and talking to my mom and Jordan. Jeff and Jordan had paired up with some other people I used to work with to track down the stragglers of S.E.R.O. They have caught a few so far, and it helps to know those people won't be bothering us anymore. It was late when we finally settled Ella in her new bedroom, and I grabbed a hot tea and sat on my new porch steps looking out to Sky Lake. It was strange how my life had turned out. I was once the halfling that thought they would never have a family or be with a werewolf that didn't find them strange or an abomination. Yet being a halfling saved my life after I had Ella and needed a blood transfusion. Werewolf blood let me live on. And now I had Grant and Ella, a family of my own, a place I belonged. A blanket was being wrapped around my shoulders, and I tilted my head up to see Grant joining me. As he sits beside me, I watched the lake's surface with the moonlight swirling on top as if it was mixing together. Thank you. I tug the blanket closer and hold on to it with one hand. It gets a little chilly by the water's edge, even in summer. Grant says, placing a hand on my back and tracing it softly up and down. What are you thinking about? One thought had been pondering on mind for part of the day, but I shake my head. Nothing. Brooke. He pushes and I sigh. Really, it's nothing. It's silly. Grant just gives me wide eyes for me to explain anyway. I place my cup beside me and turn back to him. It's just after you tossed me in the lake. Everyone was giving me a weird look or vibe. I was probably just paranoid. I brush it off. Well, can you think of a reason why? He asks. It's just, when you were about to throw me in. I thought for a moment. I cut myself off. Too mortified to say it. I mean, Grant and I had been together for about 2 years now, and it was stupid to think. But still a little embarrassing to bring up in conversation. Especially if it hasn't been discussed before. Oh, you thought I was going to do this? With confusion, I turn my head to see Grant holding a black box in his hand, carefully opening it to reveal a ring. The diamond on the silver band glints from the lights in the house reflecting to outside. They probably got a little confused when I took you to the lake's edge. I told Raina, thinking she could keep a secret but as drive. Norton said, cat gossip spreads quicker than wildfire here. I don't respond, as my jaw hasn't managed to close since seeing that ring. Grant licks his lips before continuing. I know our meeting was a little unconventional, but since then it didn't matter what order we did things in or what happened. As long as it was with you, I could handle anything. You have given me more than our Ella. You have given me hope and a life that I never knew I would want more than anything. I know this is sudden, but to continue our path of doing things backwards. Brooke, will you marry me? At first the words hit me with a wave of emotions, but I manage a nod before yes. I hug him, holding on like I could forever now. Tears make their way to my eyes before I can blink them back. I can feel Grant sag in relief, as if he was expecting me to say no. His arms enclose around me and we sit there tangled together until we pull apart and I get to wear my engagement ring. Leaning my head on Grant's shoulder, we watch the lake together. The peaceful noise of the water lapping on the banks of the lake was calming as we talk about nothing in particular. You don't think Abby was serious about building a house next to us? Grant asks abruptly. I let out a laugh. You never know with her. We don't have to invite her to our wedding. I slap his arm. Yes, actually, I thought she could be my maid of honor. Grant's body stiffs up like steel. I laugh again. Stop teasing me, Brooke. He states. I can't help it. I say happily. Besides, you're going to have to put up with it for a very, very, very long time now. He smiles, kissing me on the forehead. I know, double witch, I know. Which makes me very, very, very lucky. Bonus chapter, Mother's Day. Rolling over on my side of the bed. My eyes blink open to the other now empty side. It takes me a second to comprehend the fact Grant is out of bed before me, normally in the one-up, getting Ella ready for the day, and then trying to get Grant ready as well. But today when I sit up in bed, leaning against the headboard, my eyes drift to my bedside table. Resting against the lamp is an envelope, colorful crayon swirls marking the front. Mommy is written neatly in the midst of it. A broad smile finds its way to my lips as I pick up the envelope. Peeling the tab open, I find a card with a big heart on the front. In the middle, the words, Happy Mother's Day. Opening the card, there's some more squiggles of crayon drawings. The left side having to abstract figures drawn in purple holding hands. On the right, the words, Dear Mommy, thank you for being a great mother, love Ella. I could tell it was Grant's handwriting, knowing Ella could no way master writing at nearly 18 months, but he kept it short and sweet. And those little words still brought tears to my eyes. Happy tears of how lucky I was. Wiping them away, I place my card on the nightstand and get out of bed. Putting on my fluffy white dressing gown, I wrap it around me. The air is still a little chilly. Walking down the hallway is when I hear some noise in the kitchen. Instead of my usual path to Ella's bedroom, I go towards the stairs. Our new house was very open, especially the floor planning on the ground level. On the stairs, I stopped and watched Ella and Grant in the kitchen. There was obvious mess that had me first annoyed, but the smiles on both of their faces trumped it. Ella was sitting on one of the bar stools facing the marble counter. Grant stooped behind supporting her as they decorated cupcakes. It was a mix of chocolate and bright hot pink frosting smeared on top. Together, father and daughter had bought pre-made icing tubes and were drawing shapes on top. "Do you think your mommy is going to like these?" Grant asks, helping Ella squeeze the tube of icing so it would come out yes. Ella bobs up and down with a beaming smile. I've noticed when she gets excited she can't help but bob up and down. I found it quite cute. She'll like that one best. She points to one on the far end of the scattering of cupcakes. Grant smiles with a nod. I think so too. Ella. He kisses her head. She giggles in response. I decide then to make my appearance, making sure my footsteps are a little louder this time so they know I am coming. I make it to the landing and I see Grant look up, his smile broadening. Ella squeals and struggles to get off the seat until Grant helps her down and she does a little wobbly jog to me. I don't have time to rethink picking her up as she throws herself in my arms. She's wearing a small pink apron given to her by Martha for her first birthday, yet it is smothered in splats of frosting and batter and butter, all of which have speared onto me. Perks of being a mother. But I didn't care as I hugged my daughter, kissing her on the cheek until she squeals for me to stop. Thank you for my card, Ella. I kiss her one more time. Shyly she averts from my gaze, a soft smile on her lips. You're welcome, Mommy. I smile. Even at this age she was humble. Grant comes over then. He is still in his pajamas, gray track IES and a white shirt. But now they are soaked in all different colors as Grant failed to put an apron. I'm like his 18-month-old daughter. I chuckle as he wraps an arm around me, kissing me on the forehead. Happy Mother's Day, he whispers. Thank you. I was surprised to see you up early. I tease. Grant shrugs, his face showing triumph. Then it's a double surprise. How so? I'll be making you breakfast. Grant smiles, gesturing a hand to the kitchen. Cupcakes for breakfast. I raise my eyebrows. No pancakes. I'll just. Grant seems to now look at the mess they've made more thoroughly. I'll clean up. Mommy, can you help me with cupcakes? Ella asks, giving wary eyes to Grant watching as she moves her mouth closer to my ear. She whispers, Daddy isn't good at it. I bite my lip not to laugh, knowing full well with Grant's hearing he heard every word. And right now the pursing of his lips was his way of hiding the obvious offense at her words. All right, honey. It'll help while Daddy makes us breakfast. I say, giving Grant an apologetic smile, but I think it comes out more humored. He gives me a pointed look, slumps his head and goes to clean up the kitchen a bit before making pancakes. I sit on the bar stool, with Ella in my lap helping her decorate the leftover cupcakes. I helped her design a special one just for Daddy, which lifted his mood from before. As he was making pancakes, we talked about the picnic the pack was having for Mother's Day today. Everyone was coming, and looking outside, it seemed like really good weather. Not overly sunny or hot. After the pancakes, which were delicious to my surprise, Ella wanted me to try a cupcake. They were red velvet and better than I would have thought, yet the mountain of icing on top was overly sweet. But I pushed through, and after a while Grant was cleaning the rest of the kitchen. I was cleaning Ella. Luckily, when I was done, the consequence of eating all that food this morning came up. Literally. I left Ella playing in her room, when I raced back to our bathroom to throw up. I waited for my stomach to calm down, and when I retrieved a glass of water and sipped it soundly and washed my mouth out was when Grant appeared. The kitchen is cleared, he says happily, yet his smile dwindles away when seeing me. You all right? Luckily, I had already flushed away the evidence and pull a smile, hoping it will overpower my teary eyes and pale skin. Yeah, I'm fine, thanks for breakfast. You should probably have a shower. I look down to his mucky clothes. He does too and puts on a guilty smile yet. I move to leave the bathroom, but Grant slides a hand along my shoulder, stopping me. I turn back to him. You sure everything's okay? I'm fine. Grant, thank you for this morning. I smile. He smiles too, but it doesn't reach his eyes. I didn't like keeping it from him, but it didn't know when it was the right time to let him know. Feeling fresher after the shower, we made our short way, to the picnic next to our usual spot on the banks of Sky Lake. I could feel the small amount of tension between Grant and I as we walked down there. He knew I was keeping something from him. Whether he had worked it out yet or not, I didn't know. But after our history together, the one thing Grant hates is when I keep secrets from him. At the middle of our picnic, Grant and Sean had taken Lily and Ella to fish in the lake. And I watched them, Grant and Sean, enjoying the downtime while the girls become impatient. I was seated on a picnic blanket in the shade with Raina, sitting up with her legs sprawled out. Abby's head rested in her lap, the rest of her body taking up half the blanket. Annie was also there, rocking back and forth the baby carrier with Leo, her newborn baby. He was adorable, and it was fun this time round to organize a baby shower in return. But now Annie was excitedly trying to help organize Grant and his wedding. It was happening in the late summer. Annie somehow got a hold of a few bridal magazines and was showing me a few dresses she liked. I loved this one. Annie points to a sleek white dress, hugging every curve of the woman's body. It was beautiful, and I am proud to have lost most of my baby weight, but I don't think it would work out for later in the year. Let's see. Raina puts her hand out and collects the magazine from Annie. She looks at it. Damn, you better be saying that about the dress, not the model, Abby comments, lifting her sunglasses off her eyes to look at her girlfriend. Raina rolls her eyes and angles the magazine so Abby can see. She lifts her eyebrows. Damn, I think our Brooke could pull that one off. I smile, appreciative of a rare compliment from Abby, but knowing that the dress probably was for me. I don't know. Come one, Brooke. Annie takes the magazine back. This dress is you, and Grant would drop dead if he saw you in it. Abby sits herself up on her elbows from the comment, looking at me, eyes pleading. Please wear that dress, Brooke. Raina has the goodwill to smack her hard on the arm. Abby winces, but can't help her little triumphant smile. I don't know. I nervously laugh. I mean, for summer ride, I don't think it will be a good choice. It doesn't really look like a breathable material. Annie has a look at the dress again but shakes her head. So the ceremony will mostly be under shade. Yeah, but it'll still have a tendency to balloon up in the heat. It won't fit properly. I add with a shrug. There's a beat of silence as Annie looks at me. Really looks at me up and down. A mother assessing what is wrong. Brooke, I've shown you countless dresses. Is there? Her eyes widen. Her hand stops rocking back and forth the baby carrier. She lowers her voice. Oh my gosh. You're not getting cold feet, are you? My eyes widen no. I say a little louder than intended, turning a few heads of other pack members nearby. I lower my voice. No, Annie. It's just, I'm a practical girl. I don't feel the need to spend. I look down at the price of the wedding dress. $20 on a dress I'll wear once, and probably never fit into again. Oh. Annie guilty smiles. I get it. But still, Brooke, you deserve to treat yourself. It's your wedding day after all. I smile at her. Thanks, Annie. And I'll find a dress. Just maybe one that is a little more flowy, less revealing, and gives me more room to move. Annie straightens her back and attacks the magazines. I'm on it. Busily she flicks through magazines, enjoying the hunt for my perfect wedding dress. My eyes wander back to the couple on my other side. Abby seems happily peaceful, while Raina has her wide, realizing eyes on my stomach. They drift up to my face. Our shocked how lies meet. I should have guessed she could find out. Just a shadow, and she would share a connection. But I knew to discover it, she must have been looking for it. I guess all my not so subtle as I thought hints about wanting a less body-tight dress and my swelling in the summer must have fed her suspicions. Discreetly and slowly as possible, I shake my head, as in don't say anything. She slowly nods back. I was going to help Martha bring the food out. I causally say. getting up from the picnic blanket. It'll help. Raina gets up, probably forgetting Abby, who was resting comfortably on her lap. Abby's head bangs onto the ground with a thud. Hey. She cries out, scrambling up to a sitting position. She takes off her sunglasses, cursing silently when she realizes the fall had cracked one of the hinges. You broke my sunglasses. Raina sighs. They were mine. Abby. Right. Oops. I turned to see Grant and Ella still occupied by the lake, waiting for a fish to catch. Raina and I head for the pack house. Once feeling far enough away is when we start talking. When did you find out? Raina asks. A few days ago. I had thought it was a false alarm. Does Grant know? I finish her question. I shake my head no. Although this morning he nearly caught me throwing up. He might already suspect. H.S. mad at me now because he knows I'm keeping something from him. Raina odds along. It's funny to think a little over 2 years ago I nearly had killed her. And later on she had nearly killed me. But Raina was a more gentle person than the first impression I got. And I liked her company. Hanging out with Abby and Raina is always fun. They balance each other out. Can I ask why you haven't told him yet? I open my mouth to answer but close it. Not sure how to word it. Last time, the pregnancy washed the safest. And even though most of the time that was not in my control, at the end I could have died. We've had the conversation about having another child one day, but it was a one-way conversation. Grant didn't like the idea of the health risks that went with it. I'm not sure how he is going to react. And I think that is what is making me nervous about telling him. You know he hates surprises. Raina sadly smiles. I get it. Grant is unpredictable sometimes, but I think he knows last time was stressful. With S.E.R.O. She drifts off. She knew I didn't really like to talk about. This is going to be a different pregnancy than before, though. I nod, feeling myself get emotional all of a sudden. I sniffle back the tears and give Raina a grateful smile. It felt better that someone knew now. Thanks. When are you due? Raina asks, now seeming excited for another niece or a nephew. February sometime again. I'm seeing Ally tomorrow to check everything. Okay. I can come with you. If you want. She offers and I nod in agreement, telling her the time. I carried a tray of food back to the picnic with Raina. Everyone tucked into Martha's delicious feast. I sat back with Annie and Abby. Grant, Ella, Lily and Sean coming to join us after their unsuccessful fishing. Dom sat with us too, happily listening to the banter of Grant and Abby. Grant and I smiled at each other every now and again, but it really felt like we were keeping up appearances. After my conversation with Raina, I felt the need to rip off the band-aid and tell him tonight when Ella was in bed. I mainly remained quiet, watching Dom and his not-so-subtle looks over to the other side of the picnic. I realized quickly he was looking at Avery, a girl around his age we took in from S.E.R.O. We don't know entirely what happened, but from the scars on her arms, she was forced into experiment. To learn this, we had to dig through the files because she hasn't said one word out loud yet. She was pretty, blonde hair and green-eyed. She looked happy sitting outside, enjoying the view of the lake. She sat by herself, eating. I bumped my shoulder with Dom, Cha-Cha looking at. I tease as his eyes quickly avert back to the people around him. He flushes, knowing I had caught him out. You should go talk to her, I say. I get a flat look in reply. I mentally facepalm myself for forgetting that Dom, no matter how much he wanted to, he couldn't just go up and talk to someone. I sigh. You know what I mean. Just sit next to her at least. Dom seems to take in my words, and after a few minutes I watch him get up. He walks over to her and she seems apprehensive at first, but a warm smile from Dom has her returning one. He takes out his little notebook and they start talking. I had put Ella to bed. After today she was so tired she fell asleep straight away, but I lingered at her cot, watching carefully. Soon there would be someone else to take care of. I was nervous about it, but also excited. I wondered what Ella would be like as a sister. I wondered if our next child would be like her, or be completely different. Sighing, I couldn't put it off any longer. I knew sooner better than later. He was sitting on the end of the bed waiting for me when I entered our room. Silence sits between us for a while, none of us making a move. Until, when were you going to tell me? Gray asks. A part of me knew he had worked it out this morning, but I wasn't ready for his reaction yet. That's why I had played it off as nothing. Now I admit, taking another step into the room. I thought we were being safe. Grant's eyes I now was detecting some frustration. I bite my lip, nodding. I know. Me too. But it's happened. I should have been more careful. Grant whispers, head falling into his hands. My mouth opens to reply, but nothing comes out. Grant was upset because he thought it was his fault. I was preparing myself for his anger or disappointment, but not this. Grant, it takes two to tango. Remember. I smile but get no reaction in return. I walk closer to him. Things are different now. I'm expecting a much more laid-back pregnancy from the things we went through last time. You almost died, I know. I cut across him calmly. But I'm in good hands here. With Ally and Drive. Norton, you know that. We'll be okay. Grant doesn't say anything as he gently wraps his arms around my waist, pulling me to him. I rest my hands on his shoulders, his cheek pressed against my stomach. He lets out a long sigh. Why can't we do anything according to plan? I laugh out loud, knowing exactly what he is talking about. Ella wasn't planned. Our wedding plan for last summer was cancelled when my mom got really sick. Thankfully now she is recovering. And today another baby. I run my fingers through Grant's hair. I guess that's the way we are. Grant chuckles. I guess so. He pauses to think. So does this mean we have to postpone the wedding again? I pull back a little to look at him. What? No, why would you think that? He shrugs. You'll be showing that. He leans forward and kisses my stomach. I smile softly at this. And I saw you looking at wedding dresses with Annie today, oh. I tilt my head to the side while looking down at him. I don't mind wearing a wedding dress while I'm pregnant. Do you mind? Grant's eyes widen, maybe realizing what had me a little offended now. I fell in love with you pregnant. They'll marry you pregnant. I laugh with him, the rumble of his mouth against my stomach has my toes curling. I bend down and sit on his lap, my legs either side. I brush my lips with his, waiting for him to kiss me back. He doesn't. I slowly ease him down onto the bed, my knees resting against his hips. His hands, warm and gentle, slide under my shirt, caressing my back. Ella asleep? Grant asks between kisses. I hum in response and I feel his smile against my lips. I pull away, narrowing my eyes at his overly joyous grin. It's almost cocky, what? I didn't think your hormones would be around this early. He remarks. Normally I would have gotten mad at the mention of my uncontrollable pregnancy hormones, but my irritation fades as I take in his sexy smile. Get used to it, I say before crashing my lips with his again. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of S.E.R.O, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.